All right, y'all. This gentleman I have on here, he goes by the name, the confidence expert. Yes, he's killing it. Okay, he's been featured on VoyageATL, Cosmopolitan, Oprah Daily, Buzzfeed, Blavity, NBC, Fox, ABC. Hey, you name it. This brother been everywhere. He's killing the game right now. His whole what do you want to call it? His whole objective is to take both men and women, not just men and women who are like not successful, who are like down and out, who not these types of people. He takes people who are already highly accomplished to help them figure out a plan and a strategy to accomplish even bigger goals, to eliminate things like self-doubt, to enhance their self-confidence, to help them to practice self-love and put them in a position to where they can achieve their personal and professional goals. So he works on both ends of the spectrum. This brother right here is absolutely killing it and blazing the scenes, and I can't wait to get into his story. What's up, Jason?
What's up, bro? Man, again, appreciate that intro, man.
Hey, listen, I could do that intro like Groundhog Day. Y'all remember that movie? Who was in that movie Groundhog Day where he kept waking up and everything was happening the same way?
Robin Williams, Bill Murray.
Bill Murray.
Yep.
But every single time it was like the same. So I could do that over and over again, bro. But yeah, man, I want to get into your upbringing. Who is Jason? Because right now what we see on Instagram, on social media, is this like pitch perfect dude. Like every skit that I see you in, every clip that I see posted of you where you speaking at a conference or anything, like you don't miss. You don't miss. So it's like I have to know who was this guy coming up and how he was able to transform and build himself to be the person that he is today. So were you an East Sider or a West Sider?
No, West Side.
Oh, West Side. Okay, you was on the West Side. I'm on the East Side. I was on the East Side. Okay, got you. So you grew up in a household. Who was all in that household?
So there was me, my mom, my sister. We lived upstairs, and then my grandparents and uncle, they were downstairs.
Oh, right. So y'all had babysitters on deck whenever your mama was, wanted to go out or was working, whatever, right?
Yeah, so my mom worked nights. Mm-hmm. So my grandparents, they had a huge hand in raising us. Mm-hmm. I mean, huge hand. So we had great food too all the time. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like my grandma was an amazing cook, bro.
Wow. What's some of your favorite dishes from her?
Oh my gosh. I mean, she would like mix it up. Mm-hmm. So she wasn't the traditional greens, cornbread, turkey. She would do eggplant casserole. She would do salmon, stuffed salmon. She would do, the things that stand out. Man, what doesn't? I mean, the mac and cheese was fire.
Oh, of course. Like, the mac and cheese. And she was cooking like this just off GP. It wasn't just for holidays.
It wasn't.
Right?
That's the thing. Like, it was not just, it was Sunday, and then probably going to do something on Wednesday, and then Friday it's going to be fish.
Yeah.
So you talking about 3 good times out the week. The beauty of it is, if I didn't like what grandma was cooking, mom was going to cook the tacos and the fried chicken. So man,
you got the best of both worlds pretty much.
Yeah.
Now you a pretty healthy eater today. Like you had your cheat days. So we got to talk about how hard that was to train. Because if you grew up eating, and I did too, right? We didn't have a whole lot, so we had to eat whatever mom cooked. So it was that much harder for me to break those habits to live a healthier lifestyle. Is that the same for you?
It was easier once I moved out.
Said I gotta get away from this.
It was the environment because I remember when I first gave up pork.
Mm-hmm.
My grandma, she was like, she couldn't believe it. She's like, "What you mean you don't eat pork?"
Like,
and
this guy?
I came home I was at Easter. I came home on the weekend. I said, "Grandma, like I'm changing up this year. I don't eat pork." She had just cooked some like short ribs. She usually didn't do ribs all the time. She was like, "Just look at them and just like have one." I'm like,
"Oh man,"
because older they peer pressure you into like eating. Like
and they get offended too because that's like, this is my purpose, is to serve and I get something out of seeing how people react to this time that I put into this meal.
Bro, I was visiting my great aunt and uncle a couple days ago, and they made like a apple brandy cake. They used my grandma's recipe.
Wow.
So they were like, "Hey, Jason, like go ahead, get you some." And then they also had cheesecake. Mm-hmm. Now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get one of the other. We had just came back from Outback.
Oh shoot! Yeah.
So I was like, I'll get a little piece.
Alice Springs smothered chicken is like my favorite meal there at Outback.
Yeah.
With the bread, I be putting the butter all across it. But anyway, sorry.
But no. But that's how it was. Like I was trying to go light, and it was like, no, like get you some more, get you some ice cream. So I end up eating the cake, ice cream, cheesecake. I was like,
see, that's what happens with me too, man. I overindulge just because I'm going weeks, especially if I'm when I was living in California. You know,
Right.
we were doing the healthy thing a lot there because it's promoted heavily out there.
Yeah.
You can find a lot of vegan spots. And whenever I came back home, I just didn't know how to contain myself.
Yeah, I was at Starters last night.
Oh, for real?
Might go to Cuzzo's after this.
Oh,
but
you
yeah,
got to. You got to. You got to. So, and Cuzzo's, for those who don't know, is like equivalent to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles in LA, right?
Yeah.
Kind of the same. Yeah. So, I noticed you didn't mention your dad was in the household.
No, so my mom and dad split when I was about 6 years old. We still had contact with him, but he was not a consistent person in my life. So my father figure was more so like my grandfather, my uncle. Then I had great mentors, but my dad was, you know, sporadic, and then he passed when I was like 17.
Oh, wow. So how, you know, you said he passed when you were 17, but he wasn't in your life consistently prior to that. So how did that impact you at that point of being 17 years old?
It was tough because at that point, you know, we're trying to like figure stuff out on our own. But then he also hadn't been around for a couple of years at that point. So it was like that struggle between like I'm grieving the loss of my dad, but I also didn't really know him on that level. So it was just tough. And, you know, at that time, I didn't know nothing about counseling, depression, or just talking about your feelings. So it was like kind of fire and forget.
Right, but you had certain people kind of step up and fill that role, like your granddad and your uncle and so on and so forth. So you didn't miss a beat, obviously.
No, I really didn't, man. I thank God for them.
Yeah, straight up. So you the confidence expert now, right? Who were some of the people instrumental in helping you to realize that you needed to have confidence, to help you build your confidence? Who were some of those pivotal people in your life?
So I'm gonna start actually with my dad. Even though he was, I'm gonna start with him because the times we did spend with him were always phenomenal, super fun, very athletic, very knowledgeable, very wise guy. I mean, even outside of his addiction, he was still very intelligent and he was very confident in who he was. He didn't fear anything. So I got that from him because we looked alike. So I said, okay, if he's that confident, I can be too. But then my grandmother just kind of like would always instill, hey, go for this, do that. Like she was always on me. And my mom too, because my mom let me be. And I think if I had to pick anybody, it would be her because she didn't put pressure on me to say, hey, Jason, you need to be a doctor. You need to be an engineer. You need to be a teacher. You need to be like, I was figuring stuff out. I wasn't always, you know, the psychotherapist, speaker, professor. I was just figuring stuff out. And I believe her letting me do that without the pressure.
Yeah.
Let me know like it's okay to be me. Like you still need to do something, but take your time. Like we're not sweating. We still love you. And that helped me with my confidence because parents can be very influential.
Well, yeah, and they can project their idea of what they want you to be onto you, right?
Right. So like when I had back in high school, I had braids.
I remember that. I remember. Yeah.
Braids. And then, you know, I cut them after about 10 years or so. Then I actually had locks for a short minute. And I remember my grandmother, she would always kind of like, kind of frown like, what you doing now? Until it started looking good. Then she was like, oh, can I touch it? How is it? But that let me know, okay, I need to be who I'm going to be in spite of, or despite like what y'all are saying, because y'all going to have an opinion. Whether I have short hair, long hair, jerry curl, it don't matter. Y'all are always going to have an opinion. So those little like lessons right there showed me like, dude, you got to be who you want to be.
And you kind of came into cast with that too, right?
Yeah, I mean, because you were
still learning, but yet you were a pretty solid dude in terms of being comfortable in your own skin and who you were. You weren't trying to be like anybody else or fit in with the in crowd or any of that.
No, because bro, you know, like our school was a fashion show.
That's what it was.
It was so you had to be comfortable. I didn't have a lot of money, so I had to be comfortable. Like, okay, I'm gonna do my black tee with these jeans. I'm gonna do a white tee, and I had to be comfortable doing that. Not trying to, you know,
keep up with the Joneses or anything like that, right?
Because I was just gonna put more pressure on my moms and them,
and put unnecessary pressure on you when the things that we should be focused on at that time.
Was
schoolwork and all that other stuff, right? So you get the cast. What were some of your early career aspirations? Did you always know you wanted to go into the line of social work? Or
actually, no. I wanted to do psychology. Once I found out, okay, this is what talk therapy is. And I wanted to know, like, okay, how much do we make? Like, So I saw, you know,
what's up with the dollars?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
But actually, before that too, I thought about being a DJ personality, like being on the radio, like having my own talk show.
I can see that.
Those were aspirations that I had. So, you know, Cass didn't necessarily promote. I mean, you could do what you wanted to do, but there were some certain lanes that they really were kind of like streamlining.
Yeah.
So I was a business major.
Oh, I get you. I
was a business, like, okay, I'll just learn about business.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that no matter what you go into after
that,
right?
So it was a good foundation.
Okay, and then you ended up going on to Eastern University, right? Eastern Michigan University, and you got your degree in psychology there.
Right, yeah.
Right, and then you go to U of M, get your master's in social work.
Yeah.
So psychology and social work, they're different. In a lot of ways. So I'm wondering what those differences are and what made you change to social work once you got to University of Michigan.
So my grandparents were both social workers.
So you already had an idea.
They were bachelor level social workers. So I had that idea, and I knew I did not want to do that. That piece of case management. Like, it was great work, but they just seemed really overworked, stressed out. And
probably taking a lot of the work home too.
The work home, you know, dealing with a lot of things they saw in the field, and it just was not appealing to me. It wasn't the clinical therapy anyway. So it was like not until like my almost last semester of undergrad where I was in the McNair program. So McNair program is a program for first gen grads to like go towards like typically doctoral programs. Like, it's supposed to help you with that. And a lot of my peers, there was like 15 of us, and like 12 of them were in social work. It was only like me and another guy who were in psychology. And I was like, why are y'all in social work? Like, what is so appealing? And then I found somebody who was in the master social work program at U of M, and he was working with moms with postpartum depression. So he told me what he was doing. He was doing therapy, and I was like, you know what? I mean, I want to do therapy. I'm not necessarily big on research because that's where I was looking at with the psychology degree if I went to my doctorate in that. So that's where I made the switch to social work. And it was the best decision I made because, it was for me. You know, like kind of like making those decisions that are against the grain because everybody's thinking PhD and, you know, doctor. Are you going to be a doctor? And I'm actually going to start that next semester. But I've been out of school for 10 plus years now.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. So you are going to get your PhD.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So once you graduated from Michigan, I know you did an internship while you were there, right?
Yes.
What was that like?
Again, the best experience, bro. I was at the Ann Arbor VA. So we were how Ann Arbor system works at the VA, they connect with U of M hospital.
Ann Arbor VA healthcare system?
Yep. Ann Arbor VA healthcare system. That's correct. So their doctors, their therapists, all of them were working at U of M and the VA. So I had great experience working in substance abuse.
Wow.
So that was challenging because I thought that I could do one-on-one counseling. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a one-on-one therapist. It's gonna be great. But substance abuse is group work. So I had to now learn how to manage a group, learn how to facilitate therapy to like not just one-to-one, but like 1 to 10, 1 to 15. So it was just a great experience. It's dope. And then yeah, go ahead.
Wow. No, I mean, because now that kind of helps me to understand you have a private practice, right?
Right.
Peace and prosperity, professional group coaching.
Coaching, yeah.
Right. But you coach individuals and you coach in groups.
Yeah.
You coach groups, right? So it's like that kind of informed you getting to that point, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, because it's easy when you have like one-on-one, you can kind of mess up. And nobody's going to know. You can kind of fumble through things. But when you're on the spot leading a group, and you know, I was like 25 at the time. These men and women were like mostly like 50.
They done
like,
been through some stuff.
Yeah,
what you know, young buck? Yeah.
And I wasn't a vet, so I didn't have a beard. I looked super young. You know what I mean? Like I had to build trust and rapport with them. So like that was key in itself.
Wow. So then when you graduated, you started working for Angela Hospice?
Yep.
Okay. What was your experience like there?
Loved it because they've been voted like hands down one of the top 5 or 10 places to work in Michigan. So I wasn't necessarily like, that wasn't where I was trying to go into hospice and grief, but it was a good experience because one, they took care of us, and then we took care of our people. Like, and I got a chance to work with a different population, and grief is everywhere.
Wow.
Like, you know how everybody I think needs a therapist, everybody could have a coach. We all have lost somebody close to us, and we don't necessarily know what to do with it. We don't acknowledge it. So a lot of people that I was working with did not look like us. I can probably count on, I was there for almost 5 years, and I can probably count for sure on one hand how many black males I provided counseling to there.
Wow.
Yeah, like for sure.
Wow. Yeah, we gonna get into the reasons behind that. And we just saw Wakanda Forever came out, and there was so many people who were highly critical of it, saying, "Oh, they should have recast T'Challa." But what people don't understand is that these folks in that cast were close to Chadwick Boseman, God rest his soul. So that was their way of sort of grieving and coming to terms with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and I wish people understood it, or at least tried to look at it in that way. Maybe they would be less critical, but it's like, what options did they have? What other options did they have, right? Because they couldn't just stop. I heard Ryan Coogler talking about this. He said, man, I thought about walking away, but Chadwick, he was filming the first Black Panther when he knew he had what he had. And he didn't give up.
Yeah.
You get what I'm trying to say? Even when Ryan Coogler had called him after he finished the script for the second movie, Wakanda Forever, he was like, hey, man, you want to read it, before I give it to the studio? And he said Chadwick was like, nah, man. He could tell he was laying down when he was talking to him. He was like, I'm kind of tired right now. And I'm going to just, let them, I don't want to mess up the notes that they going to have. But at that point, he knew he wasn't going to make it to film that.
Yeah.
But just the fact that he was still doing all of this stuff while he knew he was dying.
Yeah.
So Ryan Coogler was like, well, who were we to walk away from this, right?
Right.
And recasting him, nah, because at the end of the day, we got to deal with this new person that's on set. We're being reminded of the fact that our friend, so let's just use this as an opportunity to honor him. Yeah. So that's how they dealt with the grief. So it's interesting you mentioned that in terms of grief being everywhere, but we oftentimes don't think we need to talk to somebody about it.
Right. It's everywhere we go, especially like now around like the holiday times.
Oh, yeah. Because it reminds you, like, especially if you don't have your parents with you anymore, and people are really depressed around this time of the year. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so then you go on, you start working for a Catholic Social Services of Washtenaw County. What type of experience did you gain there?
I know I keep saying it, but it was really great experience because with Angela Hospice, I was working with a higher functioning, just a better, more well-off population. Like they had more resources, even though we provided counseling for free, absolutely free. Endless counseling.
Wow.
Right? Endless counseling, but for free.
Wow.
Right? Shameless plug. I don't know if they're still doing it, but it was amazing. But so I worked at Catholic Social Services, which was different because now these people are under-resourced, underprivileged, and they only had, some of them, 7 sessions. It's like their Medicaid insurance plan or Washtenaw County insurance plan only allotted them 7 sessions.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, so now this is tough for me because I'm going from a place where like I could meet with you for a whole year if I need to now you coming in with more trauma, more addiction, losing jobs, all of these things going on, and I only have 7 sessions to work with you. Wow. So I had a wonderful mentor who I'm still close to today, who I sought out supervision from. I said, how do I work with this? So he helped me formulate a plan, and he said, now we're looking at termination starts at the intake. So I'm already thinking about how I'm going to transfer you, how are we going to develop this treatment plan from session 1. We got to hit the ground running.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So it sounded like it was more intense there.
It was. I remember some days, like I remember one time, the heat in the building, like it was December and the heat just went out. But my client on the Saturday, they still showed up. So I remember working with this young lady, like we both got our coats on, we working through whatever issues she's bringing to the table because I knew like, hey, she needed that right then and there.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So Womack Army Medical Center, is that where you're currently working?
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously you like this place, you're still there, right? Yeah. So what are some of the different things that you're getting from working at this place versus the previous institutions you worked for?
So when I worked at the VA, I saw veterans like after the fact. They're like in their 50s, 40s, 60s, whatever. They've already been discharged, separated from the military. They transition. Now I'm working with active duty soldiers. So I'm working with people who like boots on the ground. So now they're leaving their families. They're transitioning in and out. All the things that they go through, I'm seeing it firsthand, and I'm being able to support them in that way. So it's a younger population too. Yeah. But just the stressors are different.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, man. So it sounds like, and just correct me if I'm wrong here. So it sounds like you have experience. Well, I saw community mental health, right? That's something that you have experience and expertise in, as well as college counseling. College counseling, grief and loss. We talking about psychiatric inpatient units, depression, trauma, man, just a plethora of things, life transition. So explain to me all of these different things. Like, how would you go about, like, somebody who's dealing with grief and loss? Oh, you also mentioned veterans and also active duty soldiers, right? If somebody's dealing with grief and loss, how would you go about treating that patient?
So first, bro, if I ever need to interview and I can't do it, you're going to step in for me. Because you like, ran that down, right?
No, I mean, listen, man, like, you have a plethora of experience in all of these different areas. So it's like there's nothing you haven't seen, and you still a young man.
Yeah, outside of the prison system, there's not a lot of systems I haven't worked in.
Right.
But to answer your question, you were saying if somebody's, having grief and loss issues, how would I work with them?
Yeah.
So one, I would get them to share their story. Like I want you to tell me what happened. What did you experience? What are you feeling? And then what was your relationship like with this person? Like, let's say, for instance, you lost a mom. Somebody lost a mom. I want them to tell me, like, what was it like? Was it sudden? Were they on hospice? Was it a terminal illness? What was your role, like, growing up? And then what was it like now? And how are you coping? So that could be a number of sessions. But with grief, just sharing your story helps you get better, because grief is trauma too. Now, I know we hear a lot about trauma and it's a buzzword, but losing that person can be very traumatic.
Wow.
But talking about it is like so therapeutic.
Yeah.
Because now, it really does. Like, because now you get a chance to, like, just get it out. Yeah. And I'm unbiased. And now if I see some things that, as you're telling me your story, maybe there was abuse, so we want to explore that. Maybe there was an estranged relationship, so we want to explore, how did that make you feel? Or maybe this was your best friend. So, like, who's your best friend now?
Wow.
These are some of the different ways that we would go about, somebody who's lost a parent or just grieving. And then I would ask them to write about it. So just don't share with me. But, like, because I want this conversation to continue well after our 45 minutes to an hour is up.
Wow, man, I just learned a lot there, because I think, and that's the importance of a therapist, because I might want to talk to my wife about something, right? But she's dealing with her own issues, right? So I have to be careful not to weigh her down with any unnecessary stuff. And not only that, she's not equipped to be able to guide me in the way that I need to be guided. So that's the whole purpose of a therapist. People think that, I just talk to my friend. Yeah. And it's like, your friend might not even be listening to you half the time, because they're dealing with their own mess, right? And they may not know how to equip you with the tools to help you help yourself. And a lot of times people that have come to me for things in the past because they think I may have it all together based on outer appearance, they're looking for me possibly to fix the issue. And that's not good for me, because you're going to keep coming back to me to fix it. And it's not good for you, because it's weakening you in the process, because you're not brave enough to understand what it means to fix your own problems. So I think that's the biggest importance or benefit of a therapist, right?
Yeah. And they can also seek out their own support. So you said a lot of things, bro.
Yeah. Let's break all of it down.
You said a lot. So first, yes, friends cannot be your therapist. One of my clients said this, and it was really good a couple of days ago. They said, your friends will talk you off the ledge, but your therapist will keep you away from the ledge.
Shoot. That's a bar right there.
Yeah, I forget. Somebody, they told me, I said, oh, yeah.
Write that down. Yeah.
And then also, when people come to us as friends to solve their problems, it puts the burden on us. Like, now we have to take off our friend hat and be the therapist. And one thing I love about my friends, like, they don't, like, we chop it up about stuff that we have going on, but they're not looking to me to be their therapist,
be their savior or anything like that.
Yeah. Right? And when they do, if I have people who they don't get better, because I'm not going to switch that relationship with you and just put on my therapist hat.
I get you. So they're not even asking your friends who really are your friends. They're not calling you trying to get free counseling or anything like that. They respect what you do. They understand that, hey, there's a separation between who you are as a person and what my profession is, and they don't try to really, you don't have anybody trying to infringe on that.
I've had it happen before. And
how do you set that boundary when it happens?
Hey, you need to call this person, because you got to, because, I'm about to walk into this, I got to cut it off.
Yeah, because you don't want to mix business with pleasure in that type of way. I got you. Okay, wow, man, that was a whole lot right there. Now, I think while working at Womack Army Medical Center, you're also a professor at Fayetteville State University.
Yeah.
And you're juggling the two?
Yes,
I'm an adjunct
professor,
professor. Yeah. Okay, so what does that mean, actually?
So I teach a class or two each semester. This semester has been Intro to Human Services. In the past, I've done crisis intervention, substance abuse, and professional writing of social work. So I do that. And again, because I enjoy it, I can show up and do it pretty well.
Wow. Okay. So now we talked about grief and loss. How different is grief and loss from like somebody who is experiencing a breakup and maybe that person has cut off all access to them? Is there a difference between one kind of loss and that type of loss, or is the grieving process similar?
So the grieving process is similar, but it's different. So we like to say it goes in phases, not stages. So you have acceptance, where sometimes you accept that, yeah, it's over between us. But then sometimes you're in denial. You know, where you like, man, I think I can still get her back.
Yeah, right. Like, nah, bro. She
Like,
ain't answering none of your call. I just saw her out with somebody else. It's over.
Then you got the bargaining where you trying to negotiate, like, okay, is it real? Is it not? And then there's anger because you may be mad that that person broke up with you.
Resentful stage.
Stage. So they have the same phases, but they could just look vastly different. Because somebody who's lost a parent or like a loved one, like a death, they may be more outwardly saying like, man, it's just tough, or I miss them around the holidays. Whereas somebody who's dealing with a breakup, they may be ashamed, especially like if they got dumped or cheated on.
Yeah.
So
they dealing with that rejection.
Exactly, the rejection. And that's powerful because now that's starting to hit our self-esteem, who we are. What does this mean? What, like, they done moved across the country.
Yeah. So
that means I wasn't worth it.
Wow. So how do you prevent yourself from, like, if I'm entering a relationship, right? How do I, if this thing goes wrong, which a lot of them inevitably do, right? How do I prevent myself from getting to a point to where I've become overly attached to a person, to a point to where I can't move on if they're not there anymore? What are some of the things that I can do? Because I think a large portion of society, they place too much of their value in how other people see them, or they place too much of their value on being accepted by people external to them. So how do I prevent myself from getting to that point when I enter a relationship? So, what are some questions I have to ask? What are some things I got to think about?
These are great questions, because people present with these same questions in the session. So one thing I do with my clients is I help them look at, okay, what are the different facets of your life? Like if we had like a pie chart, and how much of that chart is based on your relationship? Because sometimes we're putting 50, 60, 70, 80% of our time and energy into the relationship.
Wow. Yeah.
So now, right, it's almost like the stock market. If you got all your money in this one stock and this stock takes a dip,
you're done.
You're done. And they might rebound.
So you got to have a diversified portfolio.
Yes. So you got to think about yourself. Where does your family fit in? Where does your work fit in? Where does your health fit in? Where do your friends fit in? So now you can have a more evenly divided pie chart. So when you and that person are going through it, you're not thinking, oh God, here we go again. Like, or it's the end of the world. Or sometimes it could be our work. We put so much onto our work where now, you having a bad day at work, or you get laid off. So now you thinking I can't live, or I can't cope because now this one piece of my pie chart is thrown off.
Wow. Okay. Now let's talk about anxiety, right? Some people think that they actually have anxiety, when in fact, is it just that they're nervous or afraid, or is it all the same? Like, because I know so many people today that are basically clinically diagnosing themselves as being people who have anxiety. Like it's a thing. Is there a difference between that and maybe I'm just scared?
It could be a stressful situation. And anxiety is a very normal reaction, emotion. I think sometimes we take the normalcy out of anxiety. Yeah. So like, think about our conversation.
Like we stigmatize it. So,
we stigmatize it. We think it's a bad thing. Like if you do a presentation and you are public speaking and you get done and maybe your throat is dry, or maybe your heart is beating fast, or maybe you're sweating a little bit because you were nervous, or just your body kind of prepping you up to go out and do that thing. That's a normal human function. Gotcha. So I think sometimes we do overdiagnose ourselves, which we shouldn't anyway, because fear can help us in certain situations. Now, depending on two things, the duration and the intensity of the anxiety, that's going to tell me a lot. So meaning, is the anxiety staying even in absence of the stressor? So even when you don't have anything going on. You still feeling
Oh, I
scared.
get you.
You still
I get
feeling wound up. You still feeling tight, and nothing, like literally you just watching TV, chilling at the house. But all of a sudden you feel your heart
And that
palpitating.
happens. Yeah.
But we still should talk to somebody about it and not self-diagnose, because we can misdiagnose. Anxiety looks like a lot of different things. And sometimes we don't know if there's underlying trauma behind that, if there's depression on top of the anxiety, because we just know what we feel, but we don't know how to, what category to put it in. And more importantly, what skills to use when those emotions and thoughts start to arise.
Yeah. Man, there's a lot of stuff happening in the world today. I know like there was 3 guys or gentlemen at Virginia University who were shot and killed, school shootings happening. So there's seems to be this theme where young men under the age of 35 are committing heinous acts, right? Now, obviously, if they would have spoke to somebody, if they would have cried, all of these things could have helped. But I see the therapist is trying to catch stuff on the back end.
Yeah.
But there's also that front end that we don't talk about anymore. And like, are we raising young men and young women up to be strong enough to handle the hardships that life throws at them? Because I was talking to my friend about this the other day, and he was saying how like his father, had all these kids, started his family at 24, 25. He had all this responsibility, right? And his father's father taught him things like, hard work, family, religion, things that would ground him, things that he could be anchored in whenever life threw him the hardships, right? So he had a sense of purpose. But right now you see so many young men, they're putting off adulthood. They're being adolescents for a lot longer.
Yeah.
They're taking a lot longer to grow up, so they don't have anything that they're necessarily anchored in to sort of counter those hardships. Is there a problem in how we're raising young men? Are we raising them to be weak, or is that contributing to it?
So I think one thing is that we don't have the value system. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Value system.
The values aren't there. So we knew like we could get into it with somebody, like it happens, right? Growing up, we knew that you may get into a fist fight. You may, things happen, but now we weren't going to like, okay, I'm going to get the gun. I'm going to go back up to the school or the workplace and just shoot people up. Like that wasn't our mind frame.
We weren't even thinking like that.
No, but now that seems to be more common than ever.
Yeah.
And it's very scary.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, it's like I was raised single parent household, but my mother would always tell me like, hey, this is the price of existence. This is the price of being a man. And she didn't know how to teach me how to be a man. I had other people, father figures that kind of helped me out with that as well. But they would always say, well, listen, that's your purpose. Your purpose is to take care of your family, be there for your kids. Yeah, you can cry about it, but you got to pick yourself up and keep going, because people are looking at you. They depend on you. So there was something to like be proud of. There was something like to be motivated by or whatever. But if I'm just this single man out here pursuing carnal pleasures and I don't have anything strong that I value, then I'm just basically going in every which way whenever hardships come, right?
And also lack of resiliency.
Lack of resiliency. Okay, talk about that.
Yeah, when we're not resilient, we can't handle the different stressors. And like life will hit you with not just one, it may hit you with 3 stresses at a time.
Yeah.
And you have to be resilient enough to be able to cope with those things. One thing that'll help with that is relationships and community. And when you have those strong interpersonal bonds with, your peers, your partner, your family, that'll help you when you do face a layoff, a bad breakup, a bout of depression, because you're not only relying on your therapist, but you have those, your support system.
Okay. So community. So again, now that's going to, in order to have the right community, in order to go about picking and choosing the right people, and who knows, maybe these people that we want to be a part of our community don't want to give us the time because they're like, hey man, I'm not trying to carry you, right? So you do have to come to the table with something in order to be able to attract the right people that'll make up a great community that'll help you be resilient, right?
This that key word, help. One of my mentors, she said, don't just come to people asking for things. You ask them, how can I help? How can I be of service?
How can I add value to you?
How can I add value, right? Like if there's something that I can do. And sometimes people think that, I don't have a lot of money or I don't have a lot of resources. People don't always want that. They may just need you genuinely to be there. And when we start doing that, then we build those stronger relationships.
Is that something that's always in the back of your mind with respect to the people in your community? Is like, hey, I have to always make sure that this interaction is mutually beneficial, right? I don't want to run the risk of ever feeling like I'm becoming a burden to somebody else, because the relationship won't last. It'll become strained.
Yeah, because we don't like asking for help. That's period.
True.
We don't like, right? How many?
That's why you said you hadn't seen a whole lot of black men, come to you for therapy early in your career. Yeah.
They're just now, like this past year, bro, we're just now starting to really say, hey, I got to talk about something. And sometimes the stressors that we feel like are insurmountable, they're just normal, everyday things that we all go through.
But we just need to talk to somebody to help us see that.
Yeah.
An expert. Yeah. Okay. I get what you're saying. Wow, man. So anyway, you're doing your thing, right? You're at Fayetteville University or State University, and you're working with college students. How is that experience versus working with like adults or veterans?
College students, they have a lot going on too. And I think they get kind of wrote off sometime. Like when I worked at Eastern, I'm going to take it back to when I worked at Eastern for a bit, which was excellent because I got a chance to work at my alma mater and provide counseling to them.
To give back in a way.
Yeah, to really give back. And they were dealing with some of the same things I dealt with, right? Like how do you, how do you approach your teacher? How do you manage these classes? How do you manage some anxiety about being away from home? My family's going through it. I'm giving them all my refund check and I'm stuck here. You know what I mean? Like these are the everyday stressors that they're dealing with. And then I remember one student who was seeing me, she was dealing with the loss of her parents. So she was trying to find her parents. And it was different because not everybody, at that, most people still had their parents at like 19, 20.
Yeah.
So this was very different for her.
Wow. Yeah. So
she was going to meet her parents. And I remember I recommended Antoine Fisher to her to watch that movie.
Yeah. I love
and
that
she
movie.
she really took to that because she could see herself in that story. So college kids, they're dealing with stuff. They don't always feel like they have the people to support them. And then the biggest thing I want to stress about college is that we're trying to find ourselves. We're trying to find out, okay, do I want to be with this crowd? Do I want to be with this group of kids? Am I, dating? Like, what am I putting first and foremost in my life? And a lot of times that can be confusing for our kids because we're trying to figure out, who am I? That's the number one thing we're trying to figure out at that developmental stage. Who am I and what is my purpose?
Wow. Yeah, we're trying to figure out who we are in the world, right? So that can be really, really tough. Okay, so you're working at Womack Army Medical Center, professor at Fayetteville State University, and you have your own private practice, Peace and Prosperity Professional Coaching. How do you juggle all three of these? What does self-love look like for Jason? Like, you know what I'm saying? How are you juggling that?
So one thing I had to do was I had to scale back. I had to scale back on some of I was in leadership. I was managing 2 behavioral health clinics for a while.
Wow.
Yeah. And, that was a different beast, managing clinicians. Great experience, but it was like, okay, things are starting to pick up in my practice. Like, they had some certain things rules I couldn't do. And I was like, well, where my career is going, I really can't mesh with that anymore. So I had to slow down some of my responsibilities on the base because my practice was picking up. My speaking engagements were picking up.
Speaking engagements too. This gentleman has spoken at, he said Eastern Michigan University, U of M, Delta Sigma Theta, DTE Energy, what was another, Therapy for Black Girls podcast. You done spoke on a million different podcasts. So that's another career path that you have taken. And that takes a lot of confidence. You going and you speaking in front of people that you don't even know. Anyway, go back to the initial question of how are you juggling all of this? So you scale back. So
scaling back, saying yes to the things that I really enjoy. Like being here, I was looking forward to this. My wife was like, you always working. But this not work.
You never met David Tinsley.
I was like, but this not work. But when I told her about the conversation we had back in August, she was like, man, I like him.
For real?
I swear to goodness.
Wow. Shout out to the wife, man.
Yeah. So
thank you.
Really doing things that like feed my spirit and like being okay with that. Like saying no, like, because, people, the more accomplished you are, the more things you can help people with, they're going to ask you to do more things.
Wow.
So now I have to discern, okay, no, I'm not doing that, or I can do this for a little bit. And that has filled my spirit. Like I just came back off a guy's trip from to Mexico. We had a blast.
I saw that. I saw the pictures. And you had the abs too. I'm kind of jealous, man. You was in the picture just Yeah, had the 6-pack, but anyway, but I saw you had a good time.
That
To
was
just
a good
kind
time.
of just like just enjoy yourself and enjoy the fruits of your labor. And then you
Yeah.
come back to all of this. So I get it. You have so much going on. You're in high demand in so many different areas. So it provides you the luxury of being able to be judicious, right? So like for instance, your private practice. Do you ever have people that come to you expecting you to fix their problems?
Oh my gosh. Yes. And this is the thing. Therapy and coaching, it does work. I just put a post about this today, but you have to be consistent and you have to be open. Like I remember I was working with the exercise on a young brother and I wanted him to kind of develop his affirmations, and he was having a real tough time with that. And he said, well, just like tell me what I need to say. I said, man, I can't do that. I can't, but it's a reason why.
Yeah.
Because I could tell you, I could say, Dave, man, you the best person in the world.
Yeah.
Man, Dave, you about to be
I'll
a
be sitting up
millionaire.
there like that's what Jason told me this.
Yeah. But then if we walk away, you don't believe it because it came from me. I want it to come from you, and I can help you develop your own sense of identity on what's going to come from you. So then you'll believe it.
You don't take agency away from people, pretty much.
No.
Yeah.
Because I could just say, yeah, you're this, I could gas you
Just
up.
so you can keep coming back. But it's like, no, I'd rather lose you as a client and be honest and truthful rather than lying to you in order to keep you, so to speak. There's integrity there.
I had somebody tell me this a couple of days ago. He said, man, you probably saw XYZ when I first met you a couple months ago, but you didn't say it.
Yeah.
He said, and I understand that. He said, why didn't you say it? He said he answered his own question. He said, even if you were to said it, I wouldn't have been able to receive it.
Yeah.
So he's at that place now where he can receive it, but I gave him all the tools he needed to make the right decision for him.
Yeah. Wow. I was looking at your website, and if y'all go to his website, which is
jasonlphillips.com,
jasonlphillips.com, you'll see all of these testimonials from people, and they didn't write this stuff down. This is real stuff. And one lady was talking about how she had went through several therapists, and then she got to you. And I'm assuming that was one of the things because that trust is like, I know you're not just telling me something because it sounds good,
right?
Or to keep me. I know you're really doing things to serve what's in my best interest, and that matters a lot, right?
Yeah, because it's integrity, bro. Like I've graduated so many people just this week, like saying, "Hey, you're good," and they really been good. And yes, there's grief on my part because sometimes we build a relationship. Like, man, I love hearing how things are going, and it's actually glad to hear you progressing. But I know I got to make room for more people. You know, that's just you're part of I'm a vessel for you right now, and that's okay. This is actually what we want, is for you to say, hey, I don't need you anymore.
Wow, y'all hear that? Like that's yeah, because again, we go back to attachments, right? Some people are so attached to their parents, to the person that they're in a relationship with, to their therapist, to the point to where they become overly dependent on them.
Yeah.
And you know, and so you have to make sure that you're empowering people to take control over their own lives, right? And to not remove that agency from them. So that's so important because it's good for you to do that. Right. And it's good for them too.
Yeah, because I like to see people grow. I genuinely like to see people get better. So if every week you're just coming in and we're talking about the same things, nothing's changing, something's not working. I'm not helping you or you're not helping yourself. Which one is it?
Wow. Okay. So I was listening to your one thing I like about your podcast, and it's the Peace and Prosperity podcast, is that it's short and sweet and to the point. And then you give people gems that they can walk away with and apply to their lives right away. Yeah. This is on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of the platforms, you guys. But then you have a few long form ones where you invite guests on. You had Isaiah Petway. We graduated high school with him,
that
right?
was a great episode.
Powerful one. Some of the ones that stick out to me, there was another one.
Did you hear Coco?
Coco. Who was that?
The comedian.
I ain't listened to that one yet.
Coco, that was.
I'm gonna listen to that one as soon as we get done with this. So I didn't listen to the one with Coco.
But go ahead.
Yeah, you got the one with Coco that everybody should go check out. That should be the reason why you go there. And I guarantee you're just gonna start listening to everything else. But Healing from a Narcissist, I remember that one.
That was a good. Leon broke it down.
Leon broke that joint down, right? Explain that to me. If somebody is dating a narcissist, right? How do they heal from that? But see, because here's the thing too. I think we always conveniently place the locale of evil in the person that we're dating, and we neglect to see well, what is our part in it? What
Right.
about me attracted this person? Is that important to instill in your
It's
clients?
hugely important because what are we gaining from this relationship? So we put the onus on the narcissist. Oh, he did this or she did that. But what is going on with us that allowed that person to stay after, this third or 14th time that we've been cheated on? Because Leon talked about that.
Yeah.
He said once you've you kind of step away from us, we're gonna get you back.
Yeah.
He said, don't ever let us back in.
Don't know.
He said it. He was so truthful.
He was honest, man.
And I'll say,
Yeah.
I remember working with a young lady. She was dealing with a narcissistic husband or whatnot. And she would complain. She said, yeah, it's like in public, everything is good. But when we get home,
He become a different person.
yeah. And I said, it's like y'all are in a movie now.
Yeah.
And when you're at home, the lights and cameras off.
Wow.
So what is going on is keeping you in this movie. And it took a while for her to really build up her own self-esteem and work through her own trauma to say, you know what, this is what I can expect, and I can kind of take it or leave it.
And there's another part to that is moving on without resentment, right?
Yeah.
Which people often do. They move on with that resentment and then they neglect working on the things that they need to work on to be better for the next situation, right?
Yeah.
So is that something you instill in
Oh
clients
yeah.
too?
Yeah. I mean, that's you talking about like second, third level healing them, because without resentment, that's tough.
That's tough. Okay, another video that stuck out to me. It was I Am Not My Diagnosis. Thriving with HIV. And it's like, if anybody is down and out about anything, you listen to that episode and you like, wait, I can make it. I can, because literally I love a person who, like, I don't think victimhood is great in any situation. And I love people who don't allow themselves to be defined by their situation, by their circumstance, by their diagnosis. You know what I'm saying?
Medea was so real.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, but keep going, interject. Like, how did you feel about just being in that conversation?
So
and hearing
that was one of the podcasts I was nervous about, because I'm like, okay, what am I going to ask her? How is this going to go?
Yeah.
Because it's an area that I'm not an expert in. So she is definitely the expert in that area, and just talking to her, hearing her story. And then also I had to do, like, I did my research on her. So I knew, like, she was just a prominent individual. She's doing amazing things, but she gave tangible tips. She gave the stats, and her energy. Like, we were talking about confidence. She like, well, baby, I've been confident. I'm like, okay. She brought all of the energy on that podcast.
Did. Yeah. And you walk away with that.
You
walk away confident after listening to it. Like, you can run through a brick wall.
I was so excited to interview her. Bro, because she shared openly, and people need to hear that, because people are going through things, and to hear how she is thriving with HIV, literally.
This don't define me.
Yeah, she's been on platforms. She's moved across the country. She's doing just amazing things. She's doing even more things now.
Wow. So that one, there was another one that stuck out to me. I think it was, what was it? Building confidence in corporate or something like that, or building your confidence in the corporate world. That was another really
and
good
Tiffany, we were on. Yeah, that was transformed from Instagram. But yeah, she's had a lot of experience in corporate. Yeah, and she talked about, like, how did she build up her own confidence navigating those spaces as a Black woman without a corporate background. Her bachelor's is in criminal justice. Wow. But now she's like the senior global exec or something for Amazon. Yeah. So she travels the world in the DEI space with Amazon. Like, this is amazing.
Wow. Healing forward, living in your purpose. And that's that's what you're doing right now. That's another episode, right, that I learned a lot from. Like, how important is it to find your purpose and live in it?
Now, what I learned from Purpose, that's my bro right there, on that episode was talking about your trauma, because people need to know, like, how do I open up, and how do I know if I'm going too far? And he said something I'll never forget. He said, when you can open up and share and leave with your dignity and integrity intact, it's a safe space. And I was like, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's a clip, y'all.
That's a clip.
That was good, man. So, you're juggling the podcast too. And I think it's so important, because you always have good things and things that we can walk away with and take it and apply it to our lives. You have good things to say. So you got to keep doing that, man. Please. You be taking a couple of weeks off here and there. I'll be like, Jason, where you at? But I know you got your life and all of this stuff, man. And man, listen, not only is this brother highly educated, has a lot of experience, But I remember seeing like 4 certifications. So I know, I know you have master's social worker,
Yep.
right? You have cognitive behavioral therapy. You have cognitive processing therapy, and then the last one I believe is prolonged exposure therapy. Like, explain. Why are you laughing?
Man, I'm laughing because, bro, I'm telling you, if I ever could not interview, like I
wouldn't know how to explain it, though.
Bro,
you know, we need to be in there together.
Man, I'm really just enamored by you, man. Seriously, thank you for having me.
Bro, listen, man. Thank you for coming. Like, how do you all of those different certifications? What do they each mean? I guess I know. I think I have an idea of the social worker one.
Yeah, right. So I'll break down CBT because people always that's a kind of a buzzword in therapy. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. So this is a therapy framework that looks at how we think and how we feel. Now, beyond that, I specialize in trauma. So between trauma, there's a couple of specific modalities that are really evidence-based. So they've been researched and studied to work. So that's CPT, which is cognitive processing therapy. So with that, we're looking at what are some of the mindset blocks that you may have that are preventing you from processing your trauma.
Wow.
So sometimes there's areas of safety. We don't feel safe. We don't trust. There's a power and control issue. So in that therapy framework, we're working on those things. It's heavy in writing. So if you're a person who likes to write, you like to journal, that will be the therapy modality that I would recommend.
Wow.
Now, prolonged exposure therapy is really just what it says. It's exposing yourself in a very prolonged way to your trauma, but then the therapist is helping you to guide it and break down what that trauma means and what it looks like. Wow. So not just talking, it's heavy in talking. And, some therapists, we still have you record the session and play that back, but it's in a very therapeutic way. You're not just recording yourself and then just walking away. Like, we're going to guide you through that. And then we want you to expose yourself to the things that you've been avoiding. So with trauma, right, we avoid stuff. And sometimes this is the thing, like, it blew me away. Some of us have been through trauma. We don't talk about it, but we just like, man, no, I don't go there, man. It's one way in, one way out. I don't do that. You know?
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But that typically, if you ask that person, well, when did that start? Man, I was there in 2005. This fight broke out. I seen somebody get cracked over the head. Ever since then, I don't do the one way in, one way out. Damn. So we go back to like, where did that trauma?
Where did it start? The source.
Where did it start?
Because I can't really help you unless we know where. Yeah. So that's an effective way of being able to go. Because some people dwell in the past so much to where it's like paralysis through analysis, right?
Yes.
Like they stuck. But then you can actually use the past in a constructive way. To say, I get you. There's a difference, right? There's a difference between dwelling in the past and using it constructively.
Bro, yes. Let's highlight that for a hot second. Yeah, there's a difference between. Sometimes we dwell in the past and we're just ruminating over it.
Ooh,
we're talking about it. We're just talking about it, but we're not doing anything constructively with it. So when you go into therapy, you want to talk about your past, but you want to work through it. So we're not just going to dwell on it and harp on it, but I want to know, like, what were you feeling in that moment?
Wow.
What were you thinking? And then what does this mean to you now?
Wow.
Now that's a lot to unpack. So those sessions can take sometimes 60 to 90 minutes. And there's homework involved, but if you stick with those processes, you'll be successful.
That's another reason why y'all need to see Jason if he had a time, because his brother's busy. He's booked and busy. But that's another reason, because if you go to your friends, sometimes something like trauma bonding can happen.
Yeah,
you start like, I went through this in the past, and you're trying to outdo each other as who's the worst victim or the best victim. I take it, right? But with Jason, he's the person that's not going to spend he's not going to spend more time in the past than he needs to.
No.
I'm just coming here to get what I need to get to help you move forward, right?
Right. Wow. I'm not digging. So sometimes, people, they want to know just to be nosy. They just want to know the information, but they don't want to help you with it. And you can kind of tell when somebody's asking about, oh, that happened. Dang, what'd you do next? It's like,
wow.
But, you want to be objective and actually help that person, not just be gossipy and nosy.
Right, because now we're not being productive and we're just in this loop.
This
iterative loop of nothingness, and we're not coming out of it. And that's the whole goal, is to come out of it.
Come out of it on top. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so now we got to talk about the woman beside the man, right? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So, can we...
Carol, we
Carol.
can talk. Yeah.
Okay, right. How long you guys been married?
She hate when I say this.
Yeah.
But it's going on 8 years. So
Why she hate when you say that?
She say because I round up.
Like, no, call it what it is, all right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We ain't made it there yet.
7 years,
Yeah.
August 30, but it'll be 8 years, bro.
Wow. Congratulations, man.
We met in grad school.
At University of Michigan.
Yep.
Okay. That's my stumping ground. I'm, University of Michigan graduate too. So what was it about her what attracted you to her?
Personality.
So
she would say it's not true, but when we met, she was hyped. Like we were at a little, it wasn't a club, but it was a get together for grad students. And she was just like the life of the party, almost too much of the life of the party. Like they were like, y'all got to calm down over there.
Yeah.
And just her spirit, man, that attracted me to her because I'm a laid back guy.
Yeah.
So she's good
balance.
Yeah, she's way more energetic than me.
Wow. And she's just as ambitious as you. She's a professor too.
Yeah, she's a professor and she's got her own consulting practice too. So
are you guys, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, she's rocking and rolling.
Yeah. Like, is it hard because you both are so busy to make time to carve out time for each other consistently?
Yeah, we have to be intentional about it. We have to
hey, let's put it on the calendar.
Like, hey,
we're going to do this. Yeah.
And she's the scheduler, but I'm the plan. I'll say, look, we booking the trip or we shutting phones off or we're doing this. So, but we have to be, because sometimes busyness can sneak up on you. So she may not seem as busy because she also loves to cook.
Yeah.
So, and she loves to help people. So she's doing stuff outside of her profession and it could be a lot. And I'm doing stuff too. So we have to be intentional.
Is your work ever cathartic in the sense to where you give somebody else advice on hey, maybe somebody is having an issue with being able to work through issues with their spouse. And then all of a sudden you find yourself at home like, oh, damn. Hold on, I can apply this to this.
Oh, yeah.
Does that ever happen?
I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
All the time. All the time.
Because people they think they come to you and it's like, listen, I'm an expert in what I do, but that doesn't mean I'm still fallible in my own personal life, right?
Yeah. So I'm using an example today. I ended something with somebody, it was our last session, brother's doing phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So he was like, yeah, I told my wife no, or I think he set a boundary or something. And he was like, that was different for me. And I was like, yeah, because my wife, we're here, in Detroit, but we got, we got family, we got things to do. And she was like, yeah, let's do the tree lightings thing. And I was like, this wasn't on our agenda. We starters was on the agenda, but not.
Now you just throwing things in there.
And we got, and I was like, oh man, we really don't need to do that. And I had to I had to say no. It was
Well, how does your spouse, because sometimes that'll happen in relationships and the spouse, they could possibly receive it the wrong way, right?
Yeah, because I'm not used to saying no a lot to my spouse. I don't know if that's like you too, where it's so I'm used to
or if I say no, I feel bad about saying no.
Yeah, that part too. So now it's I'm saying it and I'm fire and forget, where I'm actually.
Because I don't want these emotions of me feeling bad about it to linger. So I have to kind of stand firm on that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing this because, I have to somewhat put myself first at times.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think we're not used to it. And I'm definitely guilty of that.
But that goes back to that pie chart that you talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you saying no in that one instance, well, yeah, that's a percentage of what you have to do for you so that you don't run the risk of becoming overly attached to a person, because it's not fair to you and it's not fair to them. Now you depending on them for everything.
Yep.
Yeah, I get you.
Bro, it's deep, but that's another good question.
So in a sense, if you do say no to your wife and you're doing it in a healthy way for yourself, because it's I just got to do this for me. How do you communicate to them that, hey, I'm not doing this to hurt you, so that you don't have that lingering, separation between the two of you.
So
right?
sometimes really it's that conversation with myself, and that, like you said, the catharticness of when I heard it from my client, I was like, yeah, he's doing amazing with that.
Good.
Not being responsible for his wife's happiness, because I think a lot of times we feel like we have to be responsible for that. Let's just be honest, bro. We've been taught that. Growing up, hey, you need to make sure you take care of this, take care of that.
Yeah.
When I got married, my grandmother told me, she said, all right, now, Jason, you are, as a husband, you're the protector, you're the provider, you're the teacher. Which I love all of those roles, but I have to know when is it appropriate for me to set that boundary on what those roles look like.
Wow, shout out to grandma.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
wow. Okay, so yeah, it's good to hear a bit about the woman beside you, because you wouldn't be able to be as great as you are if it wasn't for her. So shout out to Carol.
Thank you, man. I think you're one of the first people who ever asked about her too.
Man, got to, because I'm like, that's a large, when you look at a man and look at like, oh, you can't sit up here and marvel over who Obama is without paying attention to Michelle.
Yeah,
You can't.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't. They're equally responsible for.
Yeah, she gets me right.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you had something a few months ago, right? It was the Mental Wealth Expo, right? And it was presented by Charlemagne the God. It was in conjunction with iHeartRadio in honor of World Mental Health Day. And you know, some of the people that were featured as guest speakers, we talking about, well, the first one that I want, Joey Badass.
Yeah,
like he's killing it on Raising Canaan, and I always see little clips of him just dropping gems on mental health, right? Rhapsody, you know, Angela Rye, Anthony Hamilton. I mean, you had Wallow from $1 Million Worth of Game, and you had Jason Phillips. So first off, how did that happen? How did Charlemagne, did he reach out to you specifically and say, hey man, I want you to speak along all these other celebrities because you a celebrity too, brother? So how did that happen?
He did not.
Okay, damn. But it don't matter. Yeah.
But I'm a consultant with a Coma Project. Now, that's Dr. Alfie's nonprofit. Dr. Alfie is the chief medical director for the Mental Wealth Alliance, which is Charlemagne's nonprofit.
Alfie, I heard of that before.
Yep. So I work with Dr. Alfie. She and I work closely. So she said, hey, I have this opportunity. I would like you to speak on our behalf. Would you be able to do it? Damn. And she first just like, she sent me a text like, hey, could you lead a discussion on da-da-da-da? And I was like, yeah, I could do that. I didn't even know what it was. I just said, you know, I knew like we rocked together and I wanted to support her. And then she said, well, okay, it's in New York. It's the Mental Wealth Expo. And this is going to be, you know, a great opportunity. I had no idea.
Wow. So you met all of these people.
Yeah.
And they got to see you speak too.
They got to hear me, see me speak. And it was, I did shut it down.
I know you did. I'm like, listen, I'm looking. I'm like, Jason, you better not be humble. Well, you've been humble this whole. You've been humble this whole interview, this whole conversation. You better stun on this one because that's a huge deal, man.
It was.
And you gained a lot of resources and contacts that carried on even after the expo, right?
Yes, sir. And then just to be able to help those people, I'll show you the clip after this.
Hey, y'all ain't gonna be able to see this. I'm getting an exclusive. From
it was. I mean, to really be able to look in their eyes and actually help people with what they were going through. Like, so my topic was on suicide prevention for our youth. And that's a topic that you don't hear a lot about, but it's so necessary because, you know, our young people are dying.
Absolutely.
How to support them. So yeah, I had to lean in and provide the information and give them some information and tools.
It goes back to what we talked about men not being as resilient as they were in previous generations, right? Because right now I think boys are 6 times as likely to commit suicide as women. And it was equal at one point, probably less than 50, 60 years ago. So that's on the rise, man. And that's, wow, suicide prevention. That's another one right there. That's another heavy one. I'm sorry. You want to say something in response to that? Go ahead. I got another question, man. Some of your favorite, my favorite reels. No, seriously, I got them saved. Right? Is the one where, you know, like, cause he'll do these reels where he's teaching you how to love yourself, teaching you how to cope or manage your anxiety, you know, all of these sorts of things. And he'll use, like, he had one where he was like a Jodeci member. Oh, yeah. You know what I'm saying? And he had the leather on and everything with the oiled up chest. And it was like, and the message hit, man. So I loved, and the one Boys in the Hood one. That's another one that's dope, man. So you find these different ways to sort of reach people. And you're kind of you're a cool, calm, and collected individual. Was it hard for you to step outside of your shell and do those videos? Because that's a lot when you put yourself out there like that. It is. But it worked.
I had to do something different.
Yeah.
And shout out to Audrey Richmond, Unclone Marketing. She talks about, you know, being different, standing out. Shout out to, of course, our friend Mia Ray. For just being different, standing out, and giving the people what they want and how they can relate to you. So I could talk and give that same information, but it's not going to hit well. It's not going to sit the same as if I'm doing something where like it's a Jodeci video. People, they call it edutainment, right? So you can educate them and entertain at the same time.
Yeah.
And to be honest, bro, I enjoy doing it. It's fun.
You do? Oh man, does your wife help? She probably be behind the camera like, Jason, what is you doing now?
She's usually downstairs. I'm upstairs. Now,
so you filming them yourself?
98% of those I'm filming by myself. She helped me with the boys in the hood because obviously I needed you in the car.
Right. That
but outside of that, but she has helped with some of the best ones. Like there was the one, the Coming to America.
Yeah, that was really good too.
And that was only like a couple, like 1 or 2 takes.
Wow.
Yeah, like
so
she had
any
the
directors
angles
out there looking for an actor, I think Jason Phillips can hook that up too. Yeah,
she did good on that.
Okay, last question because I'll have you here all day, man. What would you tell a person who's depressed, right? Because I know there's different forms of depression, but the type of depression where you feel like you stuck, you can't even get out the bed, right? Where would you start with that person who's severely depressed?
Man, it's the most basic question, but it's the hardest one.
Damn.
I would say lean on your support. Lean on, come outside of you. Sometimes when we're depressed, we're getting all into our head. We're thinking that we're not enough. We're thinking that we don't matter. We don't have a purpose. So if you don't have anybody right now, you can start with a journal. You could just write down 5 things you're grateful for and then 5 things that you want to look forward to. So right then, that's going to ground you and have you thinking, okay, well, you know what? Yeah, maybe I don't have the best relationship. I don't have the family I want, but I got a job. I have my health. And some of those things right there, they'll keep us like in writing it. I'm saying writing it for a purpose. Because I want you to see it. I want you to be able to read it and go back to on that day when you were feeling so low. You're like, oh God, how did I get through that?
Yeah.
Well, that's how. You had something to look forward to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Golly, that's a really great answer. And then you talked about just having, finding perspective, right? Finding reasons to be grateful in the midst of the depression. Maybe even setting small goals. Sometimes goals can seem so big, like just getting out of bed can seem big.
Yeah.
So it might, I don't know, you tell a person like, hey, well, just try to sit up in the bed today.
Sit up.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like decompose those bigger goals into smaller things, right?
And that's where the coaching works. Like just breaking it down, like just take a shower, just brush your teeth.
So they can build confidence along the way.
Yes, because, okay, let's stay here for a hot second.
No, go ahead.
People don't realize when we're depressed, we don't have no energy. We may have lack of appetite. So those small things that we take for granted, we call them activities of daily living. We don't do. So by you saying, yes, just sit up in the bed, turn the TV on, get in the shower, brush your teeth, groom yourself, iron your clothes.
Wow.
Eat 2 or 3 meals.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when people not eating, they're eating one meal.
Yeah.
So all of those things that we seem like, oh man, like, is that really going to help? That's going to do a whirlwind. Like if you were eating, sleeping, and just like proper hygiene, you're functioning pretty well.
That adds up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Godly. Hey, y'all, man, this has been a great conversation. I got way more out of this than what I was even expecting to get. Listen, when you go, look at the testimonials on his website, because again, this guy, he empowers you to take control over your own life, and that's so important. Just how honest he is, how the integrity that he exudes, the fact that he's candid with people. I heard one young lady say he's honest. He's gonna be real with you, and he gonna come down to whatever level you at or on. He's gonna come there. He's gonna meet you there, and he's personable at the same time, and he actually listens. This brother is literally changing lives, and we need therapists in today's day and age, especially with social media, all of this crap. We need therapy. We need stuff to be done on the front end too, to help intervene, whether it's, how we're parenting our kids, whether it's, policy making, professors, what they're teaching and indoctrinating kids with. We need it on all fronts, but we especially need it on the back end to catch people before it's too late so that they can go on and live productive and fulfilling lives. So shout out to Jason, man. And where can people find you, man?
Bro, they can find me on my website, jasonlphillips.com. Should I look at the camera on that?
Yeah, look at the camera right there. Yep.
So find me on jasonlphillips.com, Instagram, TikTok, jphillipsmsw, and check out my podcast, Peace and Prosperity Podcast. It's streaming on all audio platforms, and we're coming to YouTube soon.
The confidence expert has spoken, y'all. Jason Phillips. Conversations with TinBridge. Peace.